Hey everyone, before we started today's show, I want to take a few minutes to address the moment in which we're releasing this episode. When we first started filming this show, the world was and still is dealing with a global pandemic. And as the weeks progress, the world has continued to change. We've taken the last few weeks off because we wanted to make sure that we didn't distract from the voices protesting in the streets and online. And instead, we wanted to stand by in full support of Black Lives Matter. But the purpose and goal of this show from the beginning was to support local comic book shops, those who are struggling to stay open after weeks of being forced to close their doors due to this pandemic. Last week, I discovered a store in Minneapolis which has been going through a tough time. And what struck me about this store in particular was its owner and how amazing he was at giving back to his community. So please welcome to the show, Eric Childs. Eric, welcome to the show. Let's just get into it. You have just recently reopened your doors. What is that like?
Well, right now, a lot of folks have comic shop cabin fever. They're just getting out. They're like, oh my gosh, I've been deprived of comics for like 2 months, and they want to just get out there. But oddly, the strange thing was everybody just kept coming in and raving about uh, Cosmic Ghost Rider. You know, destroys the Marvel history and everything. I was just
this is
like,
it.
everybody just wants it. They were just going crazy.
That, you see, I've been telling Marvel that. I've been telling them that, Eric. You see, I got my guy right here now. He's all lit up. Now, Eric, one of the things that struck me about your story, and I read this on your GoFundMe page, was that you didn't actually get a small business loan. And I think a lot of people assume that every small business gets a loan.
I did not see any of those funds, and people thought I was, just making things up. But then, shortly after, they covered that not all the small businesses were either eligible or got those funds. So things were looking very grim.
Right.
So then followed the COVID-19 with the tragedy that takes place that sparks some terrible racial tension and riots and whatnot. So now there's a lot of black owned businesses that are also impacted by the riots. So the culmination of all that kind of stuff, people were searching small businesses impacted by COVID, small black owned businesses. My name began to surface.
Wow.
I mean, it really meant a lot because like in my heart and in my mind, I think I'm doing something good and I think I have the right approach and I think I'm on a good mission. But sometimes in business, you don't hear it a lot. You don't get a lot of support of it. Um, but to actually see me in my time of need, people say, you know what, you are important. What you're doing is important. It really resonated with me. It got emotional.
You know, when I saw your GoFundMe, that's the reason why I wanted to talk to you because I think your story is great. What you're doing for your community is amazing. You're using comic books to help kids learn how to read, right?
The big thing for me is get comics in front of kids. Keep getting comics in front of kids because there's so many stories of people that said, I started reading in a comic book. And that's where I found a love for reading. When I was in like third or fourth grade, um, the instructor, she wanted to encourage me to like get all my work completed.
Uh-huh.
And she said, hey, Eric, I tell you what, if you make sure that you get everything done, like don't skip a problem, don't skip anything, don't skip your math, don't skip nothing. If you get everything done, I'll let you pick a comic book, right? And I was like, really? And so then it's like, yeah, seriously. She pulls this drawer open. It's like she had this all planned out. She pulls this drawer open, and it was just filled with comics. And I mean, it was just like lights, like rays shooting out of the drawer. I mean, for a kid, I was like, are you kidding me? So I said, I can have any one of these if I just make sure I get everything done. So she encouraged me. She engaged me, which is the biggest obstacle for any educator. How do you get the child engaged?
What advice would you give to other comic book store owners or just people out there that want to help?
Well, the main tip is in the comic biz, sometimes you have some overages, right? So I say, don't return it, don't burn it, make the kids earn it.
I love that. That's great.
Yeah, they give them away, for free as an incentive for something. And, whether it's encouraging their reading, encouraging their, just education in general, or, encouraging them to help out around the house. When people come in, I love to just do something with the comics that I have, than just to look at it just from an economic standpoint as a business.
All right, to find out more about Eric and his story, you can go to marvel.com. You can also follow them online at Mind's Eye Comics MN on Instagram and at mindseyecomics.com online. Thank you, Eric, so much for being here, and so great to talk to you.
All right. Thank you, Paul.
Now we are going to air the episode that we shot a few weeks ago back in April. Enjoy. Hello, people of Earth, and welcome to the world's greatest book club with Paul Scheer. As always, I am joined by my friend, Mr. Steve Wacker. How are you, Steve?
I can't leave my house. Well, I can't leave my house, but
Yeah.
I certainly couldn't leave it without what is referred to in Italy as paparazzi.
No, you're not getting any paparazzi. I don't think the show is that popular. We're not like John Krasinski.
There's been talk, there's been chatter about a spinoff where I move to a new city and start talking with one of the guys from Friends about comics.
Why don't you save all your newfound celebrity, okay? I don't want to hear it. I'll be here in my office just tooling around. At least, my friends at Sideshow Collectibles, they're sending me cool stuff. Look at this. They sent me this really awesome Cosmic Ghost Rider here, and I got that at least.
Oh, that is cool. That's the character that Donnie Cates worked on.
Put it over here. Wow,
You
you really know how
I've
to
given
burst
you a
the
lot
guy's
of
bubble.
flack about that comic book, Paul, but your Cosmic Ghost Rider Destroys the Marvel Universe is a really fun comic book, and I mean that was all sincerity.
Now, Steve, as we were closing up shop here for season 1, I wanted to go back into your Marvel vault. What do you have there to show us? You've shown us some great stuff along the way. Do you have anything fun today?
So I wanted to, end the season on a high note, but also with a note of concern about people's health. Okay. At these at-home times, it can be harder for people to get exercise. Wearing a mask while you're running is not always practical, those kind of things. So people are always, we got a lot of comments on the show about how I stay in such great shape. And I can tell you it is because of the Marvel Strength and Fitness book published in the mid-'70s. And you can see it's serious because Hulk has these little dumbbells.
Are they actually working out in the book?
You drone on all the time about how you wrote Ghost Rider.
Yeah, this book right here, yeah.
So this is the Ghost Rider bicycles
Ah!
that you can on your back.
That's amazing.
The Sue Storm shoulder stand.
Yeah, that's actually really good for your core. I like that. I do that a lot.
And of course, Jade Jaws push-ups. And there's Namor holding his feet.
Actually, Namor is actually my Peloton instructor, and he's hard, but the music he picks is great. Steve, are you ready for our final guest?
Yep.
He is a good friend of mine. We host a podcast called How Did This Get Made? You might know him from shows like The League, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and Parks and Recreation, or even John Wick 3, Parabellum. Please welcome my good friend Jason Mantzoukas. Jason, welcome. How are you doing?
I mean, it's crazy. We're living in unprecedented, insane times. I will say, when you asked me to talk about comic books, I was like, it will be nice to disappear for a brief time into a bit of fantasy worlds to kind of get my mind off of what has been truly like a very difficult, very stressful time.
How did you even get into comic books? Like, what brought you into the world?
As a kid, I didn't have a sense of like cumulative history of characters. Like my favorite growing up was Spider-Man. Anytime I could buy a Spider-Man book, I would buy a Spider-Man book. But I was reading them just catch as catch can. I wasn't like somebody who was following a run. Then as I got a little older, my go-to world was X-Men. That was the first kind of, I would say, mythology that I got deep into. Right. The books we're talking about today come out in like 1984, at which point I was allowed to ride my bike to a different town. Like that's when I was trusted enough that I could ride my bike 5 miles to a different town. I could go and ride my bike to a comic book store, which was, I'm going to say 200 square feet. It was a tiny, like thin, like little room. And I would just sit in there for hours and leaf through everything. And I loved that.
So we're going to talk about a couple books today with Jason. But the first book is a book that we've talked about in a previous episode. It is The New Mutants, but this is actually a small trilogy. It's 3 books, and it is called The Demon Bear Saga. And this is a very influential book. So Jason, talk to me a little bit about The Demon Bear Saga. Why did you pick it? What about The New Mutants kind of called to you?
I think the reason that New Mutants became my favorite book was kind of twofold. One, I was able to start at number 1. So I was in from the beginning, and the team was my age. Like the New Mutants were themselves teenagers, you know. They were younger. They were a younger team, and so that really resonated with me. So much of what they're talking about is the difficulties of being a teenager. I love this era of X-Men and especially New Mutants because it was easy to project myself into that world.
I think we also have to talk about Bill Sienkiewicz, who is the artist that's brought in for this Demon Bear Saga that kind of changes the whole look of the New Mutants.
When these books came out, with Bill had done a Moon Knight run, and Bill was an artist. He came sort of out of the Neil Adams school, but everything he's doing is much more expressive. And abstract in a lot of ways. And now it's one of the more historic runs in the history of Marvel. Back then, I can tell you, in comic stores, people were at war about this thing. The fans were angry about it. It didn't look like the Bob McLeod stuff that had come before. He was really pushing the envelope in terms of the art. And if you go back to the original comics, you know, run to your comic store and find an issue of this in the back issue bin, and you'll see a bunch of angry letters and people arguing about it. But I think the people at Marvel knew this guy, this is special work.
One of the reasons I picked this story is because even as a 13-year-old, it was seismic in how different it looked, you know, like he is ignoring panel lines like this. It is so painterly. The idea, the look, and we don't get it a ton in this collection, but like Warlock as a character, the techno organic like character that is Warlock, and how Warlock's look invades panels or becomes panel breaks. He's doing stuff that, like, at the time, I didn't know what that meant, or that it was revolutionary, or that it was whatever, but I just knew it was exciting.
You know, Jason, you're talking about these characters and how we kind of, you know, connect with youthful characters because that oftentimes is the reader, and we're seeing ourselves in those characters. And Mark Millar did a book that I didn't even know about until you told me about it. It's 1985, which is really kind of a meta take on comic books. It's this kid who is obsessed with Marvel books, but I'll let you kind of explain what the premise of this miniseries is.
In 1985, to me as an adult, is an exercise in nostalgia. It is like, it's a story of a little boy who's obsessed with comics, whose parents are split and are difficult, and his only solace is diving into these comics worlds. And he goes to the comic shop and he talks about comics with his friends and with other people. And what he slowly starts to realize after going and spying on this kind of building is that the Marvel 616 villains have invaded his world.
The real world. Like, this book takes place in the real world.
The Vulture, Mole Man, Doctor
Red
Doom
Skull.
are in his town. And he's telling his friends, no one believes him. And it's wish fulfillment for what I wanted my life to be as that kid. Like, what if the Marvel world somehow was able to come to my world? The moment where he instead goes into the 616, right?
Right.
And he says, Avengers Assemble.
So great.
I burst into tears because I was like, this is so nostalgic for me. This is like how I felt. This is nothing would have made me feel more accepted or welcomed or to have been a part of these characters that I love.
It's pure wish fulfillment because it's even better than saying like you become Spider-Man. It's like, no, you get to interact with Spider-Man.
It's like he's having such a hard time and people don't believe him and his family is falling apart around him. And suddenly he's able to help the heroes save the day. To me, I'm sure my therapist could have a field day with this, but you know.
I remember fantasizing about this kind of thing as a young comic reader. And the other aspect of it I loved was what a great vindication this would be for all the knowledge that's in my head. All the dumb things I know about about this world that can't get me an A on any test, that can't get me someone to go to prom with me. But if this could happen, I could justify knowing who the Power Pack are.
So Jason, we heard about your beginning origins of this small comic book shop in your hometown. But I know you have a local comic book shop here in Los Angeles that we actually both frequent. And I want to talk a little bit about them and what they've been doing right now during this whole like hashtag stay home.
Yeah, so the shop that I go to here in Los Angeles is called Secret Headquarters. These guys, Dave and David, run it, and they are really like a deeply well curated shop. And for me, I love it because, you know, not only are they gonna kind of pull my books for me every week and have them ready to go. When I come in, oftentimes somebody will say, oh, you know what I bet you would like? You should check out da 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 da.
Secret Headquarters is also my comic book shop of choice, and we actually reached out to them, and here's a little video about what they're up to.
Hey, Dave here from Secret Headquarters in Los Angeles. We're a comic shop in the Silver Lake area. It's been here for approximately 15 years now. You can check out our website at thesecretheadquarters.com. Give us a call, 323-666-2228, and all of our most up-to-date information is going to be on Instagram at the SHQ. We're currently mailing, answering phone calls, answering emails, trying to get books to you. Most recently, Silver Surfer Black, Donny Cates, Trad Moore. Well done, guys. Thank you, Marvel.
Secret Headquarters is now open 7 days a week. I love that place. If you're ever in LA, make sure you check out Secret Headquarters. Maybe you'll even see Jason, Steve, or I there.
Yeah, and when you go, make sure you mention the World's Greatest Book Club with Paul Scheer, and nothing will happen, but you could mention it. That'd be cool.
Maybe something will happen. Maybe like they'll just give you like a knowing wink.
That would be cool, you're right.
But if you're not in LA, visit this link right here to find out where your local comic book shop is and what they're doing right now as they are adjusting to post-quarantine life. Steve, we've done 6 episodes. We've talked to amazing people along the way. And I feel like, you know, it's time for a celebration here.
I got to say, you have found some great guests on this show, and it has been very cool listening to sort of how they started in comics with their entry point in.
You know, Steve, it wasn't always easy. I kind of stumble on people's names all the time. And here's a little compilation of me just messing up everybody's name on the show. And of course, I am joined by Steve. And of course, I'm joined by Creepcracker, Sleeve Stacker. And of course, I am Paul. No. And I am Paul. Paul. I'm Paul Pierre. And of course, we'll be joined by Iron Man. Iron Man? The emphasis on the iron part? I can't get it. Steve, it has been an absolute pleasure to do this show with you. Hopefully we'll get to come back and do some more.
I can't thank you enough for suggesting this, for pulling it together with our friends at Supper Club. If this show even convinces people who wouldn't normally go to a comic book store just to go and pick up one comic, try anything out. Comics are great because you can absolutely judge them by their cover.
Bye, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Jason, for being with us today. And Steve, do you have any plans to be on Sisters again? I know you were an extra on Sisters. Any word about that?
Look, I don't want to say any secrets, but there have been conversations.
Thanks you guys so much. Bye for now.